Warhammer Space Marine 2 was one of my most anticipated games of this year, and it has been about 2 weeks since it dropped, and I have sunk a ton of hours into it, and I kind of want to discuss, the truth and some criticisms I have about this game. Some of you guys probably clicked onto this video thinking I'm about to hate on Warhammer Space Marine 2. That's not what I'm about to do at all. This is going to be a completely fair critique of this game. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering, why are you putting out a review 2 weeks after this game has come out? Everyone's formulated an opinion, and I disagree. I think that, a true opinion on a game can be formed a couple weeks after, just because actual consumers have their hands on the game. I am not a gaming journalist. I am not a massive content creator. I am somebody who just loves video games, and I do this with all of the new video games releasing. I give it about a week or two, and then I truly discuss my thoughts as a dude who just loves video games. That is literally it, just out of love for the industry. So I want to go ahead and preface that before we get into it. Now let's go ahead and get into it. So let's go ahead and talk about the main campaign here, because the main campaign is a big selling point for this game. It's marketed as the complete package. It's got multiplayer and a complete campaign that is polished, and it's a good size. Like, that is unheard of these days, and I'm here to say they absolutely delivered on that. The campaign's about like 12 to 14 hours long, give or take, and I think that is perfectly fine. Some people out there are complaining about length, but I think 12 to 14 hours for a game that has multiplayer content is absolutely perfect. And the campaign is a blast. It gets you familiar with the game's mechanics, the game's weapons, and all of that sort of thing. And it's got a great story, some great missions here, and it's a fun time. It's not over the top. It's not some like narrative movie type game like God of War Ragnarok. It is literally just video game over the top nonsense, and that is, I say that in the best way possible. Video game nonsense in the best way possible. I mean, you're chopping up aliens, you're grabbing stuff, you're slamming stuff around with hammers. Like, it's just so cool. You just play as this big tanky marine, and that's about it. And it's great. It's so much fun. I have seen some people online kind of complaining that the campaign or whatever, and just this game as a whole, didn't live up to their expectations. But that was about my expectation for it. And, I didn't think that this was going to be some groundbreaking game. I mean, the most groundbreaking thing here, in my opinion, is the hordes. That is also something that is really, really cool. This is the dev team that brought you World War Z, so the hordes here are insane. Like, there's so many enemies on your screen at once. And it's fantastic. But anyways, I think the game in the campaign and story department delivers on all fronts. Now let's go ahead and talk about the online mode, because I think it is pretty interesting as well. So it's pretty straightforward. You have a PvE mode, which is, I think, like 6 operations of online missions that you can do. It's essentially little side missions from the story. So like Captain Titus in the main campaign, he'll be like, I need a squad of 3 people for this mission, whatever. And so in that next operation, you're playing as those 3 people he requested on the same mission, but doing your own separate thing away from Captain Titus. It's really cool, and it's a nice little touch to connect it to the story, and it's honestly really replayable with the different classes. I could see myself grinding these over and over, because it's not over the top and super complicated. It's literally super straightforward. You're just shooting aliens, but that's the fun of it. You're literally just shooting aliens and doing objectives that are different, and you level up different classes and all that, and you can customize your Marines. It's really cool, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of just mindless fun with friends. That's what the PvE feels like, but it also has some challenge to it, because you can up the difficulty as well for higher rewards, that sort of thing as well. And then you jump into the PvP, and it's super simple. It's your standard control, domination, and team deathmatch modes. And once again, you have the different classes, you level them up. The maps are simple, the gameplay is simple, and it's a lot of fun as well. It's not something that's competitively optimized. If you're somebody who's looking for a competitive shooter to go pro in or something, don't this is not the game for that. Okay, the PvP is a lot of fun, but there's a lot of OP BS, which is fine. It's completely fine. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. The PvP is super casual friendly, which once again I really like. It's grindy and it's good. There's some people online who are complaining that this is a straightforward game. The PvE isn't anything special, but that's not a bad thing. I'm not gonna lie, it's not a bad thing, that it's not anything like super crazy. And same thing with the PvP. It is so refreshing to jump into a multiplayer game that's literally not just throwing microtransactions, battle passes, skins, a new ranked mode. It's not doing any of that, man. It's literally just like, hey, you play with your friends on here. You play with your friends and other people, and you level up your Space Marines. You want to fight other Marines? Go play PvP. You want to go play, some laid back PvE missions with your buddies? Go do that. It's great. It's so much fun. And that's the thing, is like, a lot of people are like, well, you can't put that many hours in this game, and that you're just completely missing the point. Like, you're not going to be grinding battle passes. You're just going to be playing the video game without any of that nonsense. And that's where I think a lot of people have been. They're used to multiplayer modes in games, having battle passes to grind every season, and a new ranked mode, and online multiplayer to try to hit the highest rank in and sweat in. And that is not this game at all. You literally just play this game. It's got fun mechanics, and it knows what it's trying to be good at, and it's great at it. It doesn't try to do anything else, and that is what I can really appreciate Warhammer Space Marine 2 for. This just feels like you back in 2009, you go to GameStop or whatever game store, and you're just looking around at Xbox 360, PS3 games, and you find one that just has a cool cover. That is literally what Space Marine 2 feels like, and it's got all these fun little side modes and whatever, and it's got a pretty nice size campaign. That is what this game feels like, and it's so refreshing to see this nowadays. And it's also refreshing to see that this game sold so well. And there are people who are kind of hating on it for stupid reasons, but this game, excuse me, I'm kind of sick right now, but this game did sell extremely well. It had early access, and you had to pay like $100 to play the early access minimum, and there was like 100,000 people on Steam alone. This game sold phenomenal, and I think that the studio should do a Space Marine 3, no doubt. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about longevity. Unfortunately, nowadays, whenever a multiplayer game releases, you're going to have a group of people who are just hating on whatever new multiplayer game comes out, and they're going to say, oh, well, this game's only going to have a player base for like 60 days and blah, 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 and it's going to be gone in 2 months, and you'll just waste your money. And I don't know. That's just not something you can really say about this game, for the simple fact that it's a Warhammer game. If you say that about Space Marine 2, you just don't know anything about Warhammer fans, because they have the craziest cult following ever, dude, ever. Like, the Warhammer video games are always popping with Warhammer fans, all right? No matter how long ago they came out, it feels like. I was literally playing Warhammer Chaos Bane, which was just like a Warhammer Diablo style game that wasn't insanely bad. It was just kind of mid, and I was playing that a couple months ago, and it was actually popping. Like, it was popping more than I thought it was, dude. I think it was more popular than like Diablo 4, to be to be completely honest, which I think is crazy. And yeah, long story short, I don't think Space Marine 2 is going anywhere anytime soon, just because it's under that Warhammer title, man. Which is an insanely good thing, because this is also going to bring a lot of fans into the Warhammer franchise. I've always wanted to get more into it. I've always respected it as a franchise and as an IP, because dude, you just gotta respect it, man. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time, and I'm rooting for them on the video game side of things, and I think that this is a great step in the right direction for Warhammer. And this is really their magnum opus for Warhammer games. I'm not gonna lie, Warhammer fans, this is, in my opinion, their best thing they have on the video game side of things. Just because no Warhammer game, in my opinion, has really been up to this scale and this hype. And that is something that is really exciting, and I want to learn more about Warhammer. And that's a concern I had with Space Marine 2, is I was like, I really hope that this isn't going to have an accessibility issue just because it's Warhammer, because sometimes Warhammer video games can get a little complicated with things. So I was really just hoping that this wasn't going to be super complicated and intricate for new players and new people who are coming to the Warhammer IP, just completely blind. But it's not, and I think it's going to bring a lot of fans on board. Overall, man, like, I'm rooting for this game, and I'm rooting for Warhammer, because they're goats. dude, like they just do their own thing and they got a cult following, it's cool. Now let's go ahead and talk about post-launch content, because the developers for this game did come out a couple days before release and drop a roadmap for post-launch content. This had some people worried. They're like, is this not going to be a finished product? Because that is once again a trend you will see all the time nowadays, is games being fixed up post-launch. And I'm here to say that I'm super excited for that, because it's just more stuff to sink your teeth into, and it is pretty much free. It is completely free, which is also a massive W. And I'm not gonna lie, like the base version of this game performed great. It felt great. It played great. Everything was great. It had enough content. I was satisfied on day one. It was a great day one release. And I was even playing the early access. The only issue that I had was with the servers when it was in early access for like the deluxe edition. I would lag out of games sometimes. Sometimes I would glitch and I wouldn't load into games. That was literally only an early access issue from my experience, and I'm willing to let that slide. This was a fantastic day one release. It had enough content. It was, it was performing good. All of that. It was great. Overall, just it was great. And the post-launch content, I'm so excited for what they have. Because once again, it's just more stuff to sink your teeth into, and that is always good. Now let's go ahead and talk about Warhammer Space Marine 2 possibly getting a Game of the Year nomination, okay? Because there's some people out there who are saying that this is a possible Game of the Year nominee. And I want to talk about that because that's super interesting. Now, before I get into what I have to say, I love this game, okay? This game was a great experience overall, and this is one of my personal favorites that has come out this year. It's great. I don't think it'll get us a Game of the Year nominee, and that's not me hating on the game at all. Like, honestly, like, I feel like if it was up to fans, it would get a Game of the Year nominee, but this just isn't like a Game of the Year type of game. Like I said before, it's not anything like Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring. It's not that scale of game. It's not like a Baldur's Gate 3, which is completely fine. There's no problem with that whatsoever. But I don't think it's a Game of the Year type of game. You get what I'm saying? Now, I don't think it would be surprising if it got a Game of the Year nominee. I don't think it will win Game of the Year, okay? Personally, I think that goes to Astrobot. I think Astrobot deserves Game of the Year, even though this is one of my personal favorite games of this year for sure. I don't think it'll win Game of the Year. I wouldn't be mad though. Like if it somehow pulled an underdog story and it won Game of the Year, that would be awesome. It's just I don't think it's a Game of the Year story, and that's not me hating on the game at all. It's not. I think most of you guys can see where I'm coming from, and that's definitely not any reason for you to not play the game. That's just nonsense if you think that. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to talk about that real quick. Overall, out of 10, I'm going to rank this game a 8 out of 10. Okay, 8 out of 10 I think is a really good spot, especially for the state of the industry. You have all of these multiplayer games coming out that are just pushing microtransactions and battle passes in your face, and Warhammer Space Marine 2 did something pretty crazy for today's industry standard, and they released a full polished game with a campaign and multiplayer and a functional day one release like that. That's unheard of. That's completely unheard of, unfortunately, nowadays. That's crazy, and I gotta give them their props. 8 out of 10 I think is a great score. And yeah, and I want to talk about this real quick too. They definitely could have gone the live service route with this game. They could have completely cut out the campaign, and they could have made it like a PvE/PvP battle pass, blah blah blah, like all this garbage. They could have made it like a $30 game and had it just be that online stuff, and they didn't. And I think that was a massive W and a great step in the right direction for this studio. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I'm super happy with this game, and it lived up to my expectations. I didn't overburden it with crazy expectations. I knew what this was going to be when it got announced and when it was getting talked about. I had a perfect idea, and that was like an Xbox 360 era game, and that's what it is, and it's great. It's awesome. 8 out of 10 is perfect. But that's gonna do it for the video. If you guys did enjoy and you want to see more content like this, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe. It really helps me out. And let me know what you guys are thinking of Warhammer Space Marine 2. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this game. Anyways, yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.